So I did a radio show last night. It was about, and if you want to check it out, it's on my Facebook. Links are on the bottom. Join me on Facebook. You can see the live stream. Usually once in a while. I used to do it every week, but it's every once in a while now. I might go back to doing it every week. Just depends on who's listening and how many. I don't think it really matters. I just do it whenever I feel it. But if more people want to watch it, then I'll probably go back to doing it every week. But you can check it out on the bottom. But last night, I did a show about possession, demonic possession, the paranormal, and the YouTube rants and comments of people that were commenting on my YouTube channel and some of my videos. I talked about that, possession, and the New Earth religion. And I'm going to go back to here on YouTube. I'm going to give you some video right now. I'm going to talk about possession and the New Earth religion and how it's involved. And I'm going to give you that. And mainly, I promised last night I was going to talk about that. And that's what I'm going to do. And my experience and my know-how in the paranormal. So stick around.
And now we interrupt, disrupt, and crash this station.
The man fighting for peace, his legacy, truth in a sea of stupid.
Filtered for your sarcastic enjoyment, Ghost Getter.
Now, I'm going to give you some video here in a bit where I talked about possession and how do you know and things like that. Last night, I kind of commented on people that were leaving, some people were leaving sarcastic comments on my Facebook because they didn't like me attacking ghost boxes or ghost adventures and things like that. I do appreciate the ones that actually left the good comments, the positive comments on there. They had my back, and I do appreciate that because, you know, that doesn't happen very often. So I do thank you for that. We're not going to get into GAC again or anything like that. In this video, I want to get into what I do know when it comes to people that think they know more than what I do know. It makes no sense, but I think next week what I'm going to do, if I remember, because, you know, my brain falls apart sometimes, what I'm going to do next week is have common sense comments. I'm going to have, and I talked about it on my radio show last night, things where it just requires a little bit of common sense. For example, one of the things I mentioned last night is the little girl ghost, and telling people to use your head and think about this for a minute. If there is dead people, see, I believe it's demonic because I have had experience with it since day one, since I can't remember. What I'm saying is, if they're so-called, it seems to be a little girl ghost in every single place in the world. Houses, schoolhouses, and it goes up to steel mills, insane asylums, hospitals, you name it. They always claim they capture it. They always get the same two words, and everybody claims that they're trying to find answers. Okay, so if you're trying to find answers to, because that's what everybody says, I got into this field because I want to get answers. Okay, so anything outside of hearing a little girl ghost telling two words in an EVP is unacceptable to everyone else. They want to believe that it's a little girl ghost that lived in that house or been in that insane asylum or hospital or steel mill that's been closed or cave and things like that. They want to believe that's what it is and nothing else. So my common sense question was, one of the questions that's just need to answer. If that is the case, and you want answers in the field, and you say to yourself, it's a little girl ghost, you used to live in that house and got the EVP of her voice, then why do you still do it? Why do you still try and waste your time getting EVPs if you claim that you want answers? If that is what you say the answer is, you don't go outside of that. That's all you say it is. Why do you still go for it? Why do you still do it? If you have the answer. So this is one of the common sense questions that I have, and I'll have many more coming next week. Another thing I mentioned real quick is out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have passed away since Adam and Eve, how come we don't have ghosts of the first 100 people that came after Adam and Eve? How come we don't have ghosts of the man that was standing there watching Winston Churchill do a speech? How come we don't have a ghost of somebody that was in George Washington's cabinet? How come it's always somebody that in the 1800s or the turn of the century or Victorian era, and it's always the woman in the white dress that supposedly was pregnant and lost her child, or her fiance left her to die and she waited for him to come back. It's always the same thing at every hotel and every haunted place. Why do you think that is? How come we don't? You would think there is not that many people that have passed away in life of natural causes. There are quite a few, but they're not as many. There are thousands of people out there that so-called died tragically, car accidents, diseases, murders, suicides. The thousands of people over the years, since the beginning of man, millions of people since the beginning of man that have died. How come we don't have all these people that are roaming around haunting places? How come it's always one or two people or a couple? You would think that with all these people that you claim have died and is coming back to haunt because they didn't get into heaven and all this other stuff, or didn't go to hell, they're in limbo, you would have thousands and thousands and thousands of ghosts around there that you would pick up on EVPs. It's always one voice. Or it's always, maybe, at best, two voices. But all the time, it's always one voice with two words. Why do you think that is? Just think about it. It just takes a little common sense. So, that's some of the things we're going to talk about next week. And, of course, I'm sure I'll get the rotten comments. But I've had experience in this my entire life. I have dealt, we're getting into this now, I have dealt with the demonic since I can remember. I can go as far back as being bullied or, being called a certain name and stuff like that since I can remember. My first real investigation I think I've done without equipment was in the late 80s, 88, 89. So I've been doing this for quite some time, and I know that from what I've experienced and from what I've learned, compared to what you see on TV, is totally separate. What ghost hunters and ghost adventures and paranormal state and all that stuff seem to do or seem to get in their shows is not what I'm getting, and it's totally nowhere near. Now, mind you, I've watched these shows. I've began watching them thinking that there was someone out there just like me, someone that's going to go through the same thing. Maybe they'll finally reveal stuff. And it turns out the more I watched it, the more it started to, I was over here and it started to go way out there. It was, I'm not experiencing what they're experiencing. What I'm getting is nowhere near what they're getting. And I'm thinking, this stuff just don't add up. This stuff just don't match. It's not working. It's not, and this is why I've learned a long time ago. I'm going to expose them for what they are, because they're liars, they're deceivers, they use other people's voices. They will imitate animals. They'll imitate people. They'll imitate your own family members, which brings up another common sense question. If you so-called think that they haunt a house, and it's a voice of a person that used to live there, then how is it, and you claim it's a ghost, how is it that you can also pick up voices of your family members that are not passed away? So these are things that just take a little common sense to think about. So I don't get what everybody else gets. I don't experience what everybody else experiences. And the reason is because it's one of those things where they try to take away, try to lead me astray from the truth, as well as the rest of the world, where they try to lead the world away and astray away from the truth. Now, I haven't done investigations in a very long time. I used to have people come to me and ask me to go on places to tell if it's demonic or not. And I'm thinking, well, it is anyway, but okay. But I would basically go into these places, and the whole environment would change. The feeling would get darker. The situation would get more frightening. It would feel a little more closed in. It wasn't one of those things where most people go in because they like the rush of it. They want to find out if it's a kind person that needs to go into the light. Well, all that changes when I go into a place. Now, there have been people that have quit. They don't do this anymore because they learned that, I showed them what it is. They found out how different it is, how they've experienced the deception, the manipulation, the imitation of people that have died, and all of a sudden they've changed and got vulgar. They got nasty, some cases violent. The EVPs I get are not so nice. They're not, and there have been other people that have gotten EVPs that weren't as nice either. They've gotten some that were pretty downright nasty, that weren't just 2 words or weren't just 3 words and things like that. So the environment changed. And since people like the rush and they don't want to listen to that, they don't want to hear about that stuff, they don't want to know about the truth, they'd rather just say they don't exist. They'd rather just say it is what it is, and that's that. So they stop asking me. People stop coming around. People stop listening to my radio shows. People stop doing this and doing that because they don't want to know the truth. And that's why I go back to the common sense questions. If you do not want to, if you claim, well, this is what it is, it's not demons, it's not this and that, it's a ghost. So why do you still do it if you have all the answers? If that's what you think it is and you have the answers to the situation, why do you still do it? Of course, their reasoning will change. It's because I want to help them go into the light. Well, that brings up another common sense question. Who taught you that these ghosts go into the light? Because it's not in any Bible. And if a minister tells you that, they're lying, because it's not in their Bible either. So these are the kind of things that you must ask yourself. So, I've been into plenty of places where things were totally different because they don't like me exposing them for what they are. Talking about the demonic, not ghost adventures or ghost hunters. They don't like to be exposed. They don't like the truth getting out. They do not like, there have been, and I'm telling you, people will say, well, produce evidence. It's hard to do this because it's a game. It's like a stalker game. There's a certain type of MO characteristic that they carry. Now, they could be doing this and changing it on purpose, because everyone's deceived. I'm deceived. You're deceived. Everyone's been deceived. But every place and everything that I've been involved in since the beginning of, I can't remember, has always carried a certain characteristic. And the main characteristic of it is they will show you in a way that it's them without you being able to prove it. That's how they do that. And what I've explained last night, there's one in particular case where I was angry and I was in a car and I was on my way to investigate a hotel, and I was probably about an hour and a half away, and I was with my nephew. And I remember telling my nephew in the car, I'm going to expose them for what they are. I'm going to chase them around and catch them in the act of doing something bad. I'm going to do it. Basically, I'm chasing them and exposing them. Well, I got an EVP the same night when I was in a hotel and I was explaining this to people. You get explaining a DVR or something and EVPs or something. We were discussing it, me and someone else, and then you got it. I got an EVP of it saying, and I got it somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it used to be on my computer. But I got an EVP of something saying, "Mike can't get me." So there's two answers to that scenario. One, they're playing a game like a playground game where I'm chasing them around, commenting to the fact that I've said something earlier while I was in the car. They heard me. And two, they always call me Mike. They never call me Michael. Even on my name tags in past jobs I've had, I've always had Michael, never had Mike. So they've always called me that to let me know that who they are, and it's really hard to explain, but they will let you know without you being able to prove it. So that's one of the things I'm trying to explain. Now, getting into possession and how dangerous it is. Now, the New Earth religion is a part of this cult. Now, I would say it's demonic, but it's not one of those things where you go and worship and by drinking blood and stuff like that. It's not anything like that. But if they deny it and say it isn't, they're lying. And here's why I say they're lying. They go by a certain philosophy. I'm going to explain this here in a second. They go by a philosophy that we are all gods. I'm a god, you're a god, she's a god, he's a god. Wouldn't you like to be a god too? That's what they all say. This is what this New Earth religion says. This is their concept. Where'd they get this concept? They get this idea from the book of Genesis. They got the idea from when Adam and Eve was talking, when they were speaking to the serpent, and Eve, I believe, said that if I take of the fruit of knowledge, I could die. And the serpent said, "You will not die. You will become God. You become gods. You will live on forever," whatever. And in that scripture, the serpent, Adam and Eve, blah blah blah. Some people seem to think that it's the apple and the tree of life when it doesn't really mention that. But since that time, if the New Earth religion says they do not believe God exists and they do not believe in Jesus Christ, why do they still use Scripture when they say it doesn't exist? Why do they still say, well, Jesus this and that when Jesus supposedly doesn't exist? They contradict themselves constantly. And if they do not believe in all that and they say that we are all gods, God is not God, Christ is not God, we're all gods, then why do they use the symbols? Why do they use the serpent? Why did Starbucks and the serpent and things like that? And that New Earth religion symbol. Apple, using the apple, bitten off apple as a symbol because the founder of Apple was in the New Earth religion. He believed in that. So all this stuff is a symbol hinting you that that's what they believe in. They believe, even Madame Blavatsky, who started the New Earth religion, pretty much started it or pioneered it. She would even admit that God does exist and Lucifer did exist, but Lucifer to her was God and God was the evil one, saying that Lucifer was actually the good person or the good angel or whatever entity and all that stuff. And so the concept was believed all the way down the line. That's why I say that this religion is demonic. Possession. Remember I was talking to you about characteristics of certain people? Let me show you this video. Now, keep in mind what I've told you about the New Earth religion, believing that we're all gods. And remember I was telling you one time about certain characteristics they carry? This is a piece of audio from Jim Jones back in the late 70s before, in the last days of his cult, and which I believe he was possessed because it seems like they all speak the same language and they carry a certain characteristic. listen to this piece of audio, and it's pretty frightening.
Out of the voice of Jesus himself. Jesus was away shore to teach people how to live, to get their head out of the sand or out of the sky. He said, don't pray to go to heaven. And even Paul said, don't look up to go to heaven. He said, the righteous faith saith on this wise, the word, heaven, God, is nigh thee, even in thy mouth and in thine heart. Don't say who will go up to heaven and bring him down, or who shall go into the deep and bring him up from the grave. But what saith it? The word is within thee. Heaven is on earth. That's the only heaven you'll find. God is here. That's the only God you'll know. Make yourself God, the 10th chapter of John. And he said, it is written, all of you are gods. He said, I'm no different than you. Everybody's a God. So Jesus is God. I am God. You are God.
Life is God. All life. Bugs, birds, trees, everything that's alive is God. The sun is God. But we've got God over here on a cross. We've got a dying man over here on a cross, and we're all kneeling down hoping that if we die, there's a better place somewhere else. Well, you got a whole bunch of people hoping that they die creates a hell of a big energy. And I call it a death wish. It's mother's death wish. It's what everybody's going towards dying, like the Vietnam War when they wanted to blow the world up.
And what have you got to do with God once again?
I'm just a messenger of the truth.
God's messenger?
Life's messenger. We use the word God. The God hooks all the other words up. I'm the Pope. I'm 10 times the Pope. I'm 50 times the Pope. But I'm the Pope in the hills and in the mountains. I'm already out of here. This enclosure here, I'm out of here. My body is stuck here, but my thought is already gone.
One thing that's pretty interesting is a lot of your religions, not all of them, but certain religions, and I'm not going to say any names, but there are those out there that think or do or deal with casting out demons out of people or things like that. And they make these claims that they're spinning heads, pea soup levitating, all the scary stuff. And it takes them 2 weeks, a week, a month, a year. And I've always said, which is a common sense question, if God was to intervene and he's supposedly backing you up, then why does it take 2 weeks, a month, a year? It should not take that long. If God was involved, it would happen like that. He would get rid of it out of a body just like that. Just like in the Bible when Christ did and took a legion out of one particular person. So it doesn't take weeks or months or a year. So when I've dealt or ran into certain people that I know were possessed, it was totally different from what I've heard of or seen. Now, I'm not saying that it's fake. What I am saying is they're faking it. Not the priests, but they're faking it. And here's why. As long as they play along and put on a show and put on an act, and you cast this demon out, oh, it worked. So one person's going to look at it, they'll keep doing it. 2 people going to look at it, they'll keep doing it. 3, 4, 5, 6 down the road, 100 people do it, 1,000 people do it, or look at it, and finally they go, oh, I'm going to leave this body because God, I can't take it no more. God's coming after me. I'm leaving this body. And they leave. Sometimes they come back, which is ironic. Same problem with certain houses. So as long as they keep putting on a show and keep putting on an act, go way out, put on the makeup, change the faces, do all kinds of stuff like The Exorcist and the movie, which, as long as they keep doing that, putting on a show, guess what? People will believe in that religion. People will believe that it works. People will believe and follow that minister, such as Bob Larson when he cast people out and things like that. So people are going to believe that, and they will follow that religion. They won't follow the truth. They'll continue the false religion. And that's one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting. I think that they put on a show, because I've dealt with and been in situations where I've ran into people like that. They will not come right out and just, just tell you who they are. Hey, I'm in here. Hello. They tend to hide in a place that keeps them, hey, they like it in here, so why tell everybody that I'm in here? I don't know the reasoning, but I know that they tend to hide. They will hide, and they will not come out and tell everybody that they're possessing someone. But there are ways of knowing. There are ways of telling. That's why I think some people that have mental illnesses or things that are wrong with them, some of them could have mental illnesses, but I think they also portray that and hide behind that, so people will think it's a mental illness when actually it's a possession. Same thing with certain brain problems and stuff like that. They also can heal, which means if there are ministers out there in false religions that smack you on the head and all of a sudden you're healed, which I think there are some out there that can do that, and hey, you're going to believe it because that minister did it. You will stay on that religion. You will follow that religion, and you will follow something that's false. That's a good way to lie, to stick to something. That's why certain people in life will manipulate you to stay on their side, will lie to you to stay on their side. They'll do whatever it takes for you to keep up the BS and follow their way by putting on this show. I think sometimes they put on a show in certain exorcisms and things like that. That's why I think they won't come right out. Pretty normally let you know in their characteristic that that's who they are. They're here, but I'm not going to let you you're not going to be able to prove it. One case, in fact, I had a guy come up to me that was, he would show up in the retail business. He was a customer, and he would be, I thought he had mental retardation. He was not, he was probably in his 20s, late 20s or mid 20s, and he had maybe a mentality of a child, maybe a 9-year-old at best. And he would always come into my work, and he would, he did off and on, he would say things to me, but he wouldn't really talk to me. Remember that I was telling you they don't call me Michael, they always call me Mike to let me know who they are? Well, my name tag has always said Michael on it. I purposely kept that on there. When they said, do you want us to change it? I said, no, keep it on there. This is one of my secrets, by the way. I didn't want to reveal it, but I'm going to reveal it today. So I'm standing there and I'm talking to him. He's telling me about his sister that's going to come and visit him. So I'm talking to him, and he's going on and on and on about it. I said, that's great. That's great. I'm glad that you're going to get to see her. And she said, he's kind of, his body language is pretty messed up, and he's telling me my sister's coming. I kept saying, yeah, that's great. I'm glad to see that you're going to have fun with her. I hope you have a great time with her. And he's talking, keeps bringing it up. And he stops and looks at me and goes, I didn't know you worked here, Mike. Like that. And I said, okay, all right, we're going to play that game now, huh? And so I started reading off in my head scripture and things like that, Psalm 91 and all that. So he backed off. He started backing off, and he left. Never seen that guy ever again. He never came back to that store. I just thought it was really odd that he, all of a sudden, I didn't know you worked here, Mike. So, calling me Mike and everything else, I stood outside Walmart, and this is back in the day when I was smoking. I could see in a distance a woman was staring at me in the parking lot. And you just know it. You got this vibe. You just know it. You can't explain it. You don't have proof, but you just know it. And I can see her in a distance looking at me. And I just had that feeling. And I can see her walking. And I know she had literature or pamphlets in her hand. And I was just standing there watching her, smoking, just watching her. I'm thinking, all right, here we go. I'm thinking that. And not saying a word, never said a word to this woman. She walks straight up to me through the parking lot, looks at me and goes, "It's not going to work, is it?" I said, "No, it won't." It's not. So she turns around, "Okay, at least I tried," and she left. So that's not the first time that's happened. So I say that there are certain points in life that you know it. That's why I played the video of Jim Jones, and I'm going to play more here in a second, and Charles Manson, because I think they were also had, I think they had demons surrounding them. I think they were possessed at one point, and you can tell in the interviews by the way they talk, because they carry that characteristic. A very rare characteristic, but there are certain things that they say. There are certain ways that they act. There are certain things that they do to let you know that you just know that that's who they are. It's a characteristic, an MO that they carry. Here's more. Listen to the interesting video here with, get this slide, it won't leave me alone. I get this video here of Charles Manson. Now listen to the words. Everybody said, "Oh, he's crazy. He's just insane. He don't know what he's talking about." But have you ever actually listened to the words that he's speaking? Very interesting, because these are the same words that as if it would be. Now close your eyes and don't look at his face. Think of it would be if a fallen angel, a demonic entity, or Lucifer was talking to you using the same lingo.
Set you on fire, I think, in a previous state. You ever feel like you're threatened when you're in prison?
No, not really.
Yeah. Not here, I guess, because you're so.
What set me on fire was a thought.
I thought it was gasoline.
No, it was a thought from India.
Yeah.
You remember the next day that the head of India was shot and killed?
I didn't realize that was the same time.
Look here. I'm not on a local level.
You're on an international level?
I'm on a world level 3 times around. I know why the Queen wears those 3 stripes on her hat. And I know why she goes to Kentucky to get her horses. There isn't anything I don't know from here to the IRA. I know who gets bombed and why those 17 people starved themselves in Belfast. That's because I live in cell 17. Because those are angels that fly in my world. To me, those are 17 machine guns. Yeah.
I find it really interesting. If you read between the lines of what he's saying, it's very, it's interesting. I don't want to say that, don't make it sound like, I like the guy, because I don't. But I have listened to most of his interviews, and they are quite interesting in a way where it catches your attention because of the words that he's saying, and especially if you deal with things that are not of this world, deal with things that are probably more, I don't know, I don't like the word paranormal, but more not of this world, then you have to listen to the words that he's saying. Especially this next interview is what caught my attention, because if you read between the lines of what he's saying, it's almost as if I don't know where he gets his information from. Maybe it's the letters that they write. I wouldn't think that the guy can have the possibility or the ability to watch TV all the time. Of course, can't do nothing anymore because he's dead. But especially in the 80s technology and 90s technology, he probably didn't have computers, so he didn't have a whole lot of things where he can get information. But the things that he says was quite, it didn't come from him. That's what I'm saying. It didn't come from him, and while everybody's going, "Oh, he's nuts," you still have to wonder, how did he know the things that he knows? And the things that he says are very not of this world, so to speak.
And I'm trying to do away with society. I tried to stop Nixon, and I stopped him dead in his tracks. I tried to stop the Vietnam War, and I did it. And all the things I did without breaking the law. Because your law is 1776. You got jet airplanes going 6,000 miles an hour, and you're reading books that was written on the back of horses. Why don't you tell the public what's really going on? You won't face the fact that there's a holy war moving upon the planet Earth. You couldn't see the blood splattered all over the walls. Now you say you want to blame one guy for it. I seen it. I witnessed it go by. I seen the children, what they were trying to do, and I was sympathetic with them. But you might say I'm a devil in this respect, that I never broke will or entered into anyone's circle with breaking will in any respect whatsoever. I just watched this flow downstream.
From your words, as Mr. Emmons quotes them in this book, it's clear that you were guilty of murder, and yet he says in all his conversations with you, he never heard you express remorse. Have you never felt it?
Remorse for what? You people have done everything in the world to me. Doesn't that give me equal right? I can do anything I want to you people at any time I want to, because that's what you've done to me. If you spit in my face and smack me in the mouth and throw me in solitary confinement for nothing, what do you think's going to happen when I get out of here? What do you think's going to happen to you? The things that you create in here.
That was... You don't feel guilty at all?
There's no need to feel guilty. I haven't done anything I'm ashamed of. Maybe I haven't done enough. I might be ashamed of that, for not doing enough. Maybe I should have killed 400 or 500 people, then I would have felt better. Then when I felt like I really offered society something.
Have you never felt remorse for the crimes you committed?
What crimes? I told you I haven't committed any crimes. I don't break laws. There's no need to break a law. Why should I break the law? I'm in God's will. Do you feel guilty? Do you feel guilty for the thousands and millions of Indians that you destroyed? Do you feel guilty for the gas chambers where you've killed the Jews? Do you feel guilty for timeless, endless, how far can you go back and say guilty of what? Guilty of what? There's no need to be guilty. Then you're going to make me suffer till I say, okay, now I feel guilty. And if you feel secure now that I feel guilty, was that going to make you feel better if I feel guilty? Guilty. I wouldn't do anything that I felt guilty about.
The book says you get a lot of mail from people who want to follow you still.
Follow me? Did you have any choice? You'll all follow me. Hey, how you doing? You still in there? Is anybody there? You know, if I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing. It'd be just like walking to the drugstore. But yet you want to come and say, do you feel blame? Are you mad? Do you feel like won't you blame the little babies? Someone comes to me and says, we're going to kill so-and-so. I tell them, oh. What do you think about that? No, I don't think about it. I'm not mad at him. I don't even know it. They said, well, we're going to get him. I said, well, what do you want me to do? They said, you want to come with us and help us? I said, nope. I'm not breaking no laws this time. I'm not breaking no laws this time. Can't that come into your brain? I did not break the law. Jesus Christ told you that 2,000 years ago. You don't understand me. That's your trouble. Not my fault because you don't understand me. I don't understand you either. But I don't spend my whole life trying to put the blame over on you because my cigarette didn't light or because something didn't work right. What do you want to call me a murderer for? I've never killed anyone. I don't need to kill anyone. I think it. I have it here. I don't need to live in this physical realm. I walk around in the physical realm, and I put on the faces, and I talk, and I play, and it's this big act, man. In the spiritual world is where I live. I exist in places you never even dreamed of. I find more real in the world that I'm in than I do the tinsel, and the real world is the one I have to deal with every day. Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left. My children are coming. I told you 20 years ago. I told the judge, can't you see what you're doing here? He didn't care. Nobody cared. Only a handful of children cared. They cared enough to give their all.
And I thought, whoa, when I first heard it, This is not a normal human being talking in a. And the reason I say that, because most people think, oh, it's just crazy, but not a whole lot of people talk like that. Not a whole lot of people have the knowledge to speak that way. So you can watch the rest of the interview on YouTube. He has several interviews where he speaks in different ways like that. Another interview I thought was interesting. It's kind of morbid, so is Jim Jones' interview. When Jim Jones was interviewing people in his church himself, what I know is when certain people are possessed, they tend to laugh creepy. They have creepy laughs. They have creepy language. Some of them speak in tongues. As you've seen in the interview, they have this morbid, creepy sound about them. And in this interview I heard, it really shocked me when he was questioning members of his church and they were really, really morbid, and he just went on laughing hysterically, like he thought it was funny. This really gave me it really gave me a confirmation of what kind of person he was and what really was going on inside of his mind and his world.
Right quick, one line, what do you think should be done with your relative?
I'd like to kill my so-called brother and Bill Aarons for the crap that both of them have caused over these years since they've left.
Thank you.
I think that Mr. Tupper should die, and that I should
Mr. Tupper, this always kills me, this family. Mr. Tupper. He's always been Mr. Tupper. Everybody calls him Mr. Tupper. I don't want to know it. It's funny. I like it. Mr. Tupper, go ahead.
I think that I should take a knife and cut Mr. Tupper all up real good, and
cut him up real good.
And then make him look like, cut him up and then put poison in him and invite all my relatives over there and have them eat him, and then I'll die.
You gotta ask yourself now, does that sound normal to you? Does that sound normal? Does that sound like someone that not only just insane, but doesn't that just the inside of you creep you out just to the point where you think that something's just off about that? Just a little, just something's not right, and I'm speaking not of this world type thing.
But don't ever say hate is your enemy. Love has practically caused me to just get you destroyed. If I had hated a little more, just a little more, we would have had a little less trouble.
Doesn't that sound like Charles Manson?
I look at my faults analytically. Sure, you got to love principle, but don't say hate is my enemy. What did it say? What's that words? Hate is my enemy. I got to fight it day and night. And what else is the line? Love is the only weapon. Bull! Martin Luther King died with love. Kennedy died talking about something he couldn't even understand, some kind of generalized love, and he never even backed it up. He shut down. Bull! Love is the only weapon with which I got to fight. I got a hell of a lot of weapons to fight. I got my claws, I got compasses, I got guns, I got dynamite, I got a hell of a lot to fight. I'll fight, I'll fight, I will fight, I will fight, I will fight, I will fight.
Wow. It's wow. That is not normal at all.
Let them hear it in the night.
Listen to the people ranting in the background. That's just crazy. That's insane. It's almost occultic.
Yes, you'll fight.
That's crazy.
Let the night roar with it. They're out there. They're out there. They're listening. Let the night roar with it. Let the night roar, because they can hear us. They know we mean it. We'll kill them if they come.
He says we'll kill them if they come. Wow. In the end, my point is, what you see from the television is not true. What a lot of these false religions are telling you, they don't know. What they are going through isn't true, because there's a lot of contradictions that go with that, such as what I mentioned earlier about why it takes them so long to get rid of any entity out of a body if God intervenes. There are holes in a lot of things that I've watched over the last 20 years since this paranormal reality has exploded. It didn't add up to a lot of things that I've experienced. I still have occasional problems. Things that I really don't bring up to anyone else. I'd rather not. And I've always had this problem since I was younger. Anytime that I would bring it up, I've had problems with dates. I had problems keeping friends. I had problems just in general. It hasn't been an easy road since this whole thing started. It hasn't been an easy road at all. So for them to tell you they live the lavish lifestyle when it's so easy for them and life is just hunky-dory and they just go here and go there and they don't have any problems whatsoever, they're either lying to you about that or they're faking the things that they're doing. I know they've experienced more than what they're telling you. I know they've had things happen to them more than what they're telling you. They were probably told not to bring it up. And I'm sure they were probably contracted not to say anything. But I can tell you, and it doesn't happen every single time because, there were, I challenge you to go with me. Doesn't mean it will happen because maybe they don't want you to know it. Maybe they don't want you to see it. Maybe they want to keep you deceived. But there have been many occasions where people have had their eyes open when I've told them. There have been many occasions, and you can talk to the people I've known for years, many occasions where they didn't believe it, and the longer they hung around me, the more they understood, and they did believe it, and they started to change their minds and their attitudes about what I've said and what I've experienced. So I'm telling you that what they're doing, they're either a part of it or they're lying to you. So don't trust anyone you hear. Don't believe everyone you hear. Don't follow every TV show, and don't believe every book that they tell you, because they have people out there that are actually working for the wrong side. There are people out there that don't know what the hell they're talking about. If they constantly go on investigations, taking the Bible, using religion, using God, but yet they promote psychics that says in the same Bible they should not promote psychics. They should not, anything that has to do with spiritualism, psychic behavior, wizardry, anything like that is against God's law, and yet they still promote it. There's a hole there. There's something missing there. And these are supposed demonologists. New Earth religion, same scenario. There are people out there that claim they're the greatest, kindest, gentlest person on the planet, Oprah Winfrey, and things like that. But look at what's behind them. Look at what they're following. Look at their lifestyle, because they're not what you think they are. And, of course, they have millions of followers because they put out this picture like they're the greatest, kindest individual on the planet. If Oprah Winfrey runs for president and wins, I guarantee you the poo's going to hit the fan. I will tell you that right now. So, possession is not what you think. It is not what the media is telling you. It's not what the movies are telling you. It's not like what a lot of these people in the paranormal are telling you, and it's not like what a lot of the people in the religion is telling you. It's very dangerous. It's dangerous to confront these people. It's dangerous to do anything that deals with it. It's not something you want to be a part of. And it is dangerous to be entering into a house or a realm where you know, investigating them, conjuring them, being a part of any of that stuff. So, nothing's happened to me yet. But there will come a time where something will happen, the doors will open up, and you will get what you asked for. I know. I've seen it. You would not believe some of the things that I've experienced. You would not believe some of the things that I still don't believe some of it myself, but I've witnessed it with my own eyes. There are other people that have been with me that have witnessed it, so you just have to take care of yourself, and you got to be careful. I appreciate everybody watching. Check out the links below to be a part of more of the live shows on Facebook. To join Facebook, join Twitter, join the YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, be a part of it. I'm sorry it's long. Some people it's too long for me to watch. It's hard to put this in a 10, 15-minute show. You just can't do it. That's why I call it a podcast. But check that out. Listen to the station 24/7, Reverse 96 FM. You can find it. Google it. Tune in. You can find it. Stream it. You can find it. Their links are on the bottom. Thanks everybody for being a part of it, hanging out with me, and taking the time out to watch this long one. Until tomorrow, until next time, I hope you learned something. Till next time, see ya.